Of the 8 to 10 programmes. It's BBC Radio Kent on a Friday night, and 7 years of the 8 to 10 show has wound itself finally to an end. But we are going to have a good one tonight, I hope. 2 whole hours with me, Julie, first. Plus, one way and another, we'll be hearing from some of the presenters who you have got to know and love over the last 7 years. We've worked out there were 12 over the last 7 years. Rod Lucas, Gavin, Bob, Ballard, Gavin Lawrence, of course, myself, Dave Austin, Sally Masterson, Dave Brown, Pat Marsh, Helen Mayhew, Russell Harris, Jim Ensom and Eric Dixon. And those people were with you for varying lengths of time, but I'm sure you've all got memories of each of those presenters, depending on when, of course, you started listening. And I know from the pile of cards and letters that have come in that some of you have been listening right from day one, 7 whole years ago. I'm most impressed. Well, I'm determined not to be sad tonight because I think we can have fun and games on the programme. I know for a fact that Bob Ballard will be definitely joining us in the studio, as will Dave Austin, and also Jonathan, who usually joins us on the phone at the end of the show. He's coming over from Essex, so we do have an Essex link tonight. I thought that would be rather nice. And James is joining us too. He's a Kentish lad. He'll be coming in. He's been enjoying the programme since he joined at the beginning, I think, with Jim Ensom. Talking of Jim, he sent us a message. I shall be playing that later. So has Pat Marsh, of course, who's on holiday at the moment. And hopefully most of the other people will be joining us by phone. And maybe 1 or 2 coming in. We're not too sure about that. But hopefully if they are on the phone, you might have a chance to have a chat, or at least ask me the sort of things you want me to ask them, if you see what I mean. So out of all the presenters that have been on over the last 7 years, is there anything you would like me to ask of any of them? If there is, give me a call, come on air, tell me what you want to say, and between 9 and 10 when they join us on the telephone, I can put your questions in case it's not possible for you to do it yourself. And we'll see if we can just catch up exactly on what they'll all be doing. And of course we mustn't forget people like Sally, Aunt Sally and Kevin, who used to answer the phones when I was doing the programme regularly, and for the others as well. And Tony, who's now halfway around the world. But Mike, of course, is here tonight. He is answering your calls. Janine, unfortunately, can't be with us tonight, but has been all week and sends best wishes. Ian McGregor is around as well. So it's going to be a full house one way and another. And as I say, I do hope we're going to have lots of fun and games tonight. I've got all your letters and so forth here. Thank you so much for them all, the cards and the letters. And as various people come in, we'll be reading them out and sharing a few nostalgic moments one way and another. And yes, we do remember Sally Masterson, who we believe is up in Edinburgh, working for a PR company, I think, but we're hoping we've managed to track her down and she's going to call us in later on in the programme. Yes, she did go to America and she's back, so it'd be nice if we can get hold of her and find out exactly what's been happening. And she says sorry for programmes being cut in the future. Lot is so interesting, and she said that she turns but the only thing is that she does turn her radio down when the music comes on. She's not too keen on the pop music. Well, you know what it is. 2 little smiling happy faces. One very old, one very young. We have got with us the one and only Bob Ballard. Hello, Bob.
Got me Zimmer Fry with me tonight as well.
And a slightly younger James.
Good evening.
Tunbridge you're from, aren't you? That's right. James has been listening for a good long time. He said, can I come in tonight? So I thought it would be a grand idea to have him along as well. So how long have you been listening for, James?
6 or 7 years.
You've been doing really well. You must have been tiny when you first started out then. Can you remember the very first presenter that you listened to then?
Well, the first one I can remember is, the first one I can really remember is you.
Well, it wasn't 6 or 7 years ago. I'm not that old. Yes, that's right. I think you said you listened to Jim Ensom as well, you felt, didn't you? So that he was just before me. So, it's probably about 5 years ago then. That's pretty good going. And have you listened to every show since?
Well, not every show, because some during the summer holidays we go to France.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just doing term time.
And you keep going. And you and your dad, who's here, hello David, he's kindly brought you in tonight, have worked out how many shows you reckon we've actually had. Go on, you tell us. Is this over the 7 years?
Yeah.
Go on then, how many?
We think it's 1,820.
Well, that's pretty impressive, isn't it? So I can see why Ron was thinking it could be around that 1797. So 1,000, how many? 200?
820.
820, that's a fair going, isn't it? How long did you do it all for, Bob?
Well, I'm sort of like a before and after picture, because I did it back in 84 for a while, and then sort of, not exactly by public demand, but because I was cheap, I came back about 3 or 4 years later for quite a long stint, and then back again about 89. So I think I came back in 3 bursts.
Yeah.
Did like a sort of, classical piece in 3 movements, dear. So, I sort of... came in between 3 or 4 different people at different times.
And did you do a different sort of 8 to 10 show each time? Can you remember?
Very different, because when we started, many Radio Kent, indeed Radio Medway listeners will remember 30 High Street, which is now a block of flats called Media House, where we started the 8 to 10 programme from. It was actually in those days not called the 8 to 10 show, it was called something by various other titles.
Was this Rod Lucas starting
Yeah,
this one?
Rod was first, then I sort of did a period of it. And then Jim took it up, and Dave Brown, and you've been through the list of presenters. But it all started in this rather dilapidated and run-down radio station building across the road, about 200 yards away from here. And that was 84.
Some years ago. And did you do any there, or did you start when we were here in
No, I
here?
did some there. We did. That's what I'm saying about the different styles of program, because we did a very much sort of lively, fun and games and type program. Yeah, it's when I did it 2 years ago, a year and a half ago here. It was very sort of current affairs based and quite newsy. So it's changed a lot, and every presenter who's done it has changed with their own style.
That's the thing with it, really,
evolved,
isn't it?
really,
It's quite interesting now, because it started at Kent, then we joined Essex, then we just ended up as Kent. But as you say, each presenter's put their own style on it, which has been rather nice, really. Although the whole basis of the thing is the fact that you phone in and talk. I mean, that's what it's all been about.
The great thing is, Julie, I think we all agree about this, you sit here at 8 o'clock or whenever the programme started, and you actually didn't know what was going to happen. That's the great thing. Other sort of programmes, music programmes, or other types of presented programmes with scripts or whatever, you know exactly what's going to happen, and it all is sort of led by you. This is the programme, it's led by the listeners, and you have no idea what's coming up next, which is the great thing about
It's
this
superb.
programme.
I mean, it kind of makes you a bit nervous before you start, but it's great because the things that have happened during the show are just unbelievable. I mean, it would be great if we have a lot of archive material, but we just don't seem to have it. I mean, do you recall things happening, James, that,
Yeah,
you know...
the famous
that made you
muff-ups.
The famous muff-ups.
Oh, yes, we remember those.
Yeah, they're the ones
It's
we
funny,
never forget.
They're the ones that people keep on tape as well.
Of course
and they
they
remind you when you go to things like the Kent County Show, people will come up to you with tapes, say, "Do you remember you did this?"
That's right,
And
yeah.
You try and forget, but people don't let you forget
No,
those sorts
it's
of
always
things.
those things. And you won't remember one in particular, James?
I think it was either yours or Pat's first programme, where you were trying to cue a record and you cued it at the wrong speed.
It's probably
I
me.
actually did that tonight.
I don't think I can blame Pat Marsh for that. Although I seem to remember we had a certain person called Doris here when I first started, but we'll talk about that later.
Oh, yes,
I'll tell you what, let's have a word with Midge in Rochester, because apparently Midge has been with us right since the start. Is that right?
Exactly.
Midge.
I'll remember the very first programme.
You are a veteran, you know. What a wonderful person.
Yes.
How comes you listened to the very first programme? What was it that made you start listening?
I don't know. I just was, had the radio on, and 8 o'clock on they came, and I listened and liked it. And it's put me off television. I
Great.
do not watch television.
Good.
Yes.
And who was it you were listening to? Was it Rod
That was
Lucas?
Rod Lucas in those
because
days.
he was a bit mad, so I gather.
Yes.
I don't mean sort of literally, but I mean the programme was fairly mad, yes. Because,
No, it's surprising how it has changed, and the various presenters, but...
have you found that each presenter's put their own stamp on it, sort of thing?
Slightly, yes. But, no, it's the people who ring in. I mean, Audrey and Stan,
Yeah.
I feel I know them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all part of this programme. It's like one big happy family, isn't it, really? I know that sounds terribly corny, but there's no other way to describe it, really.
Yeah.
This is Bob
It's nice
smirking
to
in the
hear
background.
Bob.
Pardon?
It's nice to hear Bob. Now, didn't he toddle off to Canada?
No, I didn't. I did sort of holiday-wise for a while, but actually I'm working in BBC Radio Sport in London now.
Ah, I see.
So I've graduated to that. Julie's making the most amazing faces here. Just be glad it's not television. But no, I left the
I'm being very
turntables and the
rude.
jingles behind. I'm actually working in sort of bona fide radio now,
I see.
more or less.
Yes.
But you haven't given up on Canada, have you?
No, in fact, I shall be going there in a couple of weeks' time for 3 more weeks. My annual pilgrimage. But no, I would like to have gone to Canada, but luckily things here have worked out quite well. So
Now, I think when you left Radio Kent, you went to Canada, didn't you, for a holiday or something?
I did, not shortly after that, and then sort of fell into this job in London. I've been there ever since.
I see.
And terribly sporty he looks too, Midge. He's in his
sure
little white
so.
posy T-shirt.
I'm not supposed to say that. Radio's full of illusions, you see.
Well, he looks very well on it, that's all I can say.
Oh, that's good.
So
Yes.
have you a particular memory to share with us tonight, Midge, about it all?
Nothing special. I used to like it when there was a taxi driver who used to ring up, and say the most outrageous things at the beginning of a programme. And everybody used to rush for the phone and, cry him down and no, he was wrong. And
Right, well,
the battle.
We had a few like
Dave
that,
Austin
actually.
thinks it might have been Alan in Dover.
That's right.
So I wonder if Alan's listening tonight, you reckon it was Alan in Dover, Dave?
No, it was Alan in
Oh,
Dover.
right. Well, if he's listening tonight, come on and say something outrageous, Alan. Don't let the side down on the last night.
Say what you like tonight, Alan. We won't be here on Monday.
Yeah, quite. You can
Kick
take
off,
us
boy,
off
come
air
on.
if you like. Oh, Midge, thanks for joining us. I'm glad you've been with us all this time, and I hope you'll continue to listen to Radio Kent, even if it's different programmes.
I'll try it.
Okay, thanks a lot, Midge. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So there we are, Midge, right away back 7 or 8 years. And let's just see what Matthew's got to say in Langton Green. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
Hello, Matthew. Are you...
You're from Tunbridge Wells, actually, but I'm calling from Langton.
Oh, I see. Right, we're going to put it all straight
in the
then.
middle of a field, you see.
Oh, of course, you're
And so I'm
camping,
actually
aren't
sitting in
you?
the phone box.
Looking
That's
for crop
right.
circles.
Yes.
Security camp.
You're the guy who wanted me to say hello to Jim Ensom for you.
That's the one. Is
Yeah.
he there?
Unfortunately, he's not. I've got him on a little cart here. 25. A little message from him.
Without the horse.
So I'll play that in a while. Are you able to listen to the programme, or are you still putting tents?
I've actually got a radio, so I'll probably be able to listen to it. And I've got a tape going at home,
Great.
recording the whole programme.
Oh, jolly good. Well, you'll hear his message later on then. How are you going putting the tents up?
I will. We've got our main tent up, patrol tent, but the dining chairs we haven't got any pegs for, so no one's
Oh.
finally gone back and they're getting the pegs for us.
You sound about just as about organised as we are. Yes.
Speak for yourself, dear.
Matthew, do you think your tent's going to fall down on your head tonight?
Well, hopefully not.
Well, I hope it doesn't rain. Is there anything you would like to ask either Bob Ballard or Dave Austin, who are both sitting here in the
Ballard
studio?
or Dave Austin.
Yes.
I don't think I've actually ever listened to those two.
Oh,
Just-
fine.
I started
Well, that's...
listening
It was good to hear from you,
Matthew.
Matthew. Goodbye.
He just said he'd never heard... Never listened to you,
I've never
Dave.
heard of him either.
It's
No.
charming,
Who is
no.
There was about a year in the middle when I didn't listen.
It sounds very intense to me.
Oh, I see. There was about a year you
Sorry
didn't
about
listen.
that.
Well, never mind. We'll forgive you. Just this
I
once.
recently came back to you, you see.
Ah, wonderful.
Oh, no, they're going. Oh, actually, hang on.
What?
Yes, I did listen to one of them.
Did you?
I think it was Bob Ballard.
Well, it was obviously so memorable.
Once heard, never remembered, obviously.
It was the one who first announced that they were going to close down the programme.
Really?
But I thought it was dodgy, because about a week later I phoned in and it was still going, you see.
That sounds like Gavin Lawrence to me.
Oh, Gavin Lawrence. Yes, Gavin Lawrence. Gavin Lawrence was on.
Oh dear, the knives are going to come out tonight. Now listen, this is going to get very confusing. Listen, we better let you get back to your tent putting up. I hope you get
okay
your
then.
pegs soon.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us, and I'll pass your message on to Jim Ensom when I speak to him next.
Yeah, ta.
Bye. Matthew putting his tents up. Yes, of course, Gavin, unfortunately, he can't be with us tonight. He was around at one point when we were sort of closing the programme. Who was around when we... Oh, it was me, wasn't it, when we actually split with Essex? I think I did the final bye-bye Essex time.
Yes, you did.
Then we were back to Kent again. It's very strange, isn't it? Well, Jonathan's just turned up. He's hovering around there. He'll be in a moment. We're getting quite a queue of people here. One and all. Sherry, hello.
Hello.
Hello to you. It's nice that you joined us on the last night, because you've been following us on the programme for a long time, haven't you?
More than 7 years.
More than 7 years?
I think so.
How have you managed that? I thought we'd only be going for 7 years.
I think.
Well, you were in on the first Rod Lucas programme, were you?
I think so. When was he on?
One was what?
When was Rod Lucas on?
He was on about 7 or 8 years ago when it first started. What date did you
Yep.
say, Bob?
About 84,
About
yeah.
84. You must have been awfully tiny, Sherry.
I was 4 years old.
Huh?
Medium dry sherry, I think.
Wonderful. You started off young and you're carrying on listening. That's good news.
Can I sing a song, please? It's your song.
Sing a song.
I mean, it's not a song, but it's kind of a poem song.
Right. Is everybody ready? Sherry's
Yes.
got a... Is it a goodbye song for us, Sherry?
Yes and no.
Okay, then. We'll turn you up nice and now. We're all ears. We'll shut our microphones and everybody will listen, okay?
Yeah.
When you're ready, off you go.
Julie, Julie, up till now, you've done some wonderful shows. When there were many letters and talked to folks, you spoke to them, who knows. We always felt that we were a part of a family that no one ever chose. But now it has to come to an end, but could come back sometime, who knows. God bless one and all, to you in the garden of England. Love from Sherry and
Oh.
family ever, including the dog.
Oh, that was lovely. Sherry, thank you. Did you write that yourself?
Mummy helped me.
Oh, good old Mum. Well, it's very kind of you. Thank you very much indeed.
Christopher, or whatever his name is. The baby.
Christopher not being one of the past presenters, since he's not quite 3 yet, but I think he's going to be on the radio one day. He talks 19 to the dozen. He's very well, thank you.
I'm going in the seniors in September,
Good.
and in November is my birthday, and I'm going to be 12.
Well, good luck for your 12th birthday. That means you're really big and grown up, Sherry. All right, so you've got to start being sensible from now on.
I have been.
Well, thanks for joining us and for all the other times you phoned up on the programme, OK?
Yep.
And to your family too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye from everybody, please.
Bye-bye, Sherry.
Bye.
That's nice. And Rod Lucas has sent his best wishes. He can't join us tonight due to other commitments.
Yes, what's he up to tonight?
I
Well, I can't
wonder.
tell you.
Yes, he didn't tell us.
I
I
haven't
reckon
insight
he
into
probably
these
heard
things.
about the story we were going to give away about the kissogram.
No, he
and,
doesn't. Well, he does know. He wasn't there because I was filling in for him that night, you see. Or
Oh, I
that
see.
few weeks.
Oh, I
so he
see.
wasn't actually present that night.
Right. Well, we want a few more anecdotes. If you want to speak to Bob or Dave, do call in. Jonathan's joined us as well. Say hi, Jonathan.
Hi, Julie.
Hello, all the way over from Essex, so we'll be having a chat to him as well. James is still with us, and if you've got any anecdotes or little stories or things you want to remember about the last 7 years, please do call. Meanwhile, I'm going to grab a whole pile of cards and things, play some music, and pass these round so we can start reading out some of the letters, and we'll take your calls as well. 0634 811111 if you'd like to join us tonight.
Hang on, Julie, I just knocked that.
What, again?
I just knocked it, yeah. Better
please,
just check it
sabotaging
again. Well,
my
there's all
blooming
stuff all over the
studio.
place, you know. Look, I tell you what, do it on the wireless so people know what happens.
Do it
Go
on the
Go
wireless.
on the
Go
wireless.
on
Different to
then.
do on that one,
Go on,
isn't
do
it?
it.
Well, I've got it at the beginning now.
Well, it's nearly there.
It's nearly there. It's just working its way around. It will be Jason Donovan when we get here. We are. Any dream will do. So we can all be sick and enjoy this one. So here we are in the studio still, all having fun and games on the very last night of the 8 to 10 show. 7 years coming to a close, as they say. But thank you very much indeed for all the cards and the letters and everything that's come in. It's been great actually receiving them. And we've even got Jonathan a box of Rose's chocolates here now, so we're all stuffing ourselves with those as well. Anyway, let's have some of these cards. And oh no, before we do that, let's have a word with Andrew, because he's hanging on the phone. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Julie.
Hello
Sad
to
night,
you.
Isn't it?
It's a what?
It's a sad night, isn't it?
It is. We're all sort of. It's so nice to see everybody. We're feeling quite smiley. I think it'll hit us later on, actually.
Well, if you'd have been doing the programme from Chelmsford, then I'd have probably tried to get over and said hello, sort of thing. But
No, we're over here in
sounds a bit
Chatham.
awkward.
Jonathan has come all the way from Essex, have you not, Jonathan? South
Whereabouts
End?
in Essex is he from?
Yep, I'm from Southend, actually Hadley in Essex.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know that. It's near
I
sunny
ought to. I
Southend.
passed through it enough times.
Where are you then, Andrew?
In Basildon.
Oh, right.
Just up the road.
So I'm a member, actually. Maybe I shouldn't say it, of the BBC Essex Advisory.
Oh, you're that Andrew.
Yeah,
Yes.
you remember me?
Oh, right. I do. Very well, Andrew.
I tried to get you over to Chelmsford to one of our meetings.
I know. Yeah, you've been
I
a
got
great...
my wrist slapped over that, you know.
Yes, you weren't the only one. I got slapped for asking. But, no, you've been a great supporter of this show, haven't you, all along?
When the split letter came from Essex, at meetings I put the case to get it reinstated, but obviously they wouldn't wear it. So whilst I stayed with our own local programme of Monday to Thursday, I did insist on retuning to your show on a Friday night.
Oh, jolly good. That's what I like to hear.
And I have been with the programme long before BBC Essex went on the air, when Radio Kent first took over from Radio Medway, practically from the start.
So you're another veteran of the whole
That's
show.
right.
So how come, if you were listening in Essex, you decided to tune into Radio Medway at the time?
Well, there was no other station. There was no BBC station in Essex, and it was really either Radio London or Radio Kent. And Kent seemed a little bit more friendly than London. It seemed too cosmopolitan, the London one.
And was it Rod that you first tuned into then?
I remember Rod Lucas and Dave Brown right back at the beginning. In fact, I remember Dave Brown when he used to do a programme on Radio Medway, so that's showing me age.
It certainly is, it certainly is. And what sort of memories have you got over the years? I mean, why have you been such a sort of staunch follower of the show?
I used to, in the early days, I used to like when you used to have the children ringing in, you know, their little bits, and it used to be interesting listening to them. I suppose, really, there's too many things to remember any one particular incident. But I remember one night, so I think when Bob Ballard was doing the programme, when Radio Caroline, should I mention it, first came back on the air, and everyone was ringing him wishing good wishes for Caroline. And he was saying, shh, You know, we shouldn't do these over the air, the rival stations, etc., etc.
Do you recall that, Bob?
I don't actually. I have to say, my mind is working back through the old file, but I actually don't remember that.
Yeah, because that's when Caroline opened up on the Ross Revenge after the Mi Amigos sunk.
No, we see. We're getting into literally murky waters here.
Yeah.
We're going off a tangent which 90% of our audience won't understand.
Yeah.
But actually, I remember a certain station called Laser 558, which surfaced for a while. It was quite popular for about a year and then disappeared. And we used to get quite a few Laser converts. In fact, we had a Laser DJ come in one night, I believe. But I don't remember Caroline.
Yeah,
I remember a girl called Caroline.
I also remember I used to regularly ring up Rod Lucas every Saturday night because the programme used to go out on the Saturday night.
Yes, we haven't established that. And in fact, Bob was sort of putting me right on this earlier. Explain, it wasn't the 8 to 10 show initially, was it, Bob?
It was a very odd sort of amalgam of times because on Saturday...
Used to be on Sundays as well.
Yeah, Saturday was, if I remember rightly, Saturday was 7 till 11.
That's right.
Sunday was 4 till 5, then we took the top 40, then we came back from 7 till 11. Monday night was 8 till 10. Then we were off. There were 2 nights when it wasn't on. Tuesday and Thursday, I think. A Wednesday it was on. No, Kent Rocks was on a Wednesday. And the programme was on a Thursday, Friday, I think. There were a couple of days when it wasn't on. It sort of popped up at different days. But it was never a uniform length. It was always a different length. And I think the only day it was 8 to 10 was on a Monday.
Right.
But that was in the old building.
And then, of course, it evolved into the 8 to 10 show, didn't it?
But I remember... as I say, I used to ring up Rod Lucas every when he done it on a Saturday night because I work at Pitsea Market for my things, among other things. And I remember the first time I rang up, I said, "Oh God, I'm knackered," you know. And he said, "What's the matter, mate? What have you been doing?" And I went through all the rhetoric of the job I do, etc., etc. And each week when I rang up, I said, "Oh, it's Andrew from Pitsea Market." Then, so the market used to get a free plug on the BBC.
Well, that was very clever, Andrew. And you belonging to the Blooming Radio Council? I don't know. It's not on.
Well, sadly, that too. I'm retiring from at the end of next month because I've been with BBC Essex along with certain other members since it started, and once you serve, and it's probably the same in Kent for a certain length of time, you have to stand down.
That's right. Let new people come. Well, Andrew, thanks ever so much for joining us tonight. I'm glad you've been with the programme for so long, and as I say, such a staunch supporter. That's great news. Hopefully we'll be able to get some of our other presenters on the phone between now and 10 o'clock, and if you would like to call in and ask anything or chat to anybody, 0634 811111 is the number. I've just been handing out some of the cards and letters that come in. Does somebody want to start with some of them? I think you've got one.
Yeah.
Dave.
Do you know when I first moved into Radio Kent? I first set foot in this building, and the first thing I saw was a knitted gonk that looked very much like Bob Ballard. In fact, staggeringly like Bob Ballard.
Better looking than.
And it sat on his desk, and it was knitted by Ada Williams, who's been a staunch Radio Kent supporter as well as the 8 to 10 show. She says that she's still got photos, paper cuttings, and a thank you letter from Rod Lucas for his gonk, which she received in 1983. First DJ for the show was then Rod Lucas with Weirdy Beardy. Some nights 7 till 11. Yes, I hope you have a grand last 8 to 10 show on Friday the 21st. That's from Ada Williams and family. Thank you very much, Ada. And the other one I've got, I don't know why I've been given it, but it's got a young lady with a bare bottom. Why me, I say. Anyway, it's thanks very much to, very appropriately, Mrs. Ramsbottom, who lives in Margate, and she says bye-bye and see you all again soon, she hopes, although I rather doubt it, and she says hello to all the 8 to 10 gang as well.
Lovely. And
Hello,
before we go on, guess who's joining us on the phone? Have a word and see if we can guess who you are.
Well, I don't know. It's a hard old life, isn't it?
My God, it's Dave Brown.
Well done, Bob.
How are you, mate? All right?
Well, thanks. Keeping well.
What's happening then, Dave? What are you doing and why aren't you with us?
What am I doing? I'm
Yes.
just about to get changed because the nightclub opens up in about 10 minutes' time.
So it's the old gold Lurex flares.
Yeah, I've moved on a little bit.
The chest wig.
Really. I'm still in entertainment, though, you see.
The stylistics
the beauty
wig.
of what I do now is that I entertain people live. I've got 2 nightclubs and they're doing quite well.
You're not in the Chippendales, are you, Dave?
Got enough hair on his chest for that, mind you.
Yeah, it all slipped down from his head years ago, didn't it?
Dave, your name has been taken in vain rather a lot on the programme already tonight. You've missed quite a lot, including an impression of your voice by Bob Ballard.
Oh, funky high.
Hey, woo!
Now, was that your favourite expression? Because 1 or 2 people were trying to remember
I
it.
think there was a few things that I used to do. The former manager didn't like me giving kisses on the radio, which I think tonight I can do one.
Go
Whatever
on.
happened to him?
Oh, yes, we enjoyed that one,
You also
though.
like me doing funky highs, so a funky high. I think I've lost the way of doing that, but no, seriously, I was stunned. I only found out a few minutes ago about what's happening, and I'm feeling quite emotional about it.
Oh, Dave.
You know, I worked there for about 10 years, and it's so sad to hear about the cutbacks.
That's right. So, you enjoyed your time on the 8 to 10 show, then?
I did enjoy my time on the 8 to 10 show because it gave me an opportunity to actually talk to the listeners, which the morning show didn't give me that much opportunity to do. But as I say, I find it very strange, really, with what's happening. I find it very strange that the BBC are cutting back in local radio. Maybe they should look elsewhere.
What,
For
for
my
cuts,
sake,
you mean?
really. Otherwise, I'll get slapped wrists.
Well, this is very true. We can't do anything about it now. It is the N1. But just tell us what you're actually going to wear tonight, then.
What am I wearing tonight? Well, Julie, I must tell you that my image has changed.
Oh, come on, do tell.
Loud shirts. I used to wear very loud shirts, Bob Ballard will tell you. Loud trousers. And now I wear a very, very sort of business-like suit, I suppose.
But it's colour coordinated with your Zimmer frame, Dave.
A Zimmer frame.
You mean you've got old and sensible, have you, Dave?
Well, I've tried to cool down a bit, but, you know, it's. I do miss radio sometimes.
Yeah. So
And I do listen quite a lot to Radio Kent whenever I'm in the area.
All right. What's the funky tunes you're going to be playing tonight, then?
Well, I don't play any records here, you see.
He's management.
You've purely been the manager.
He's a striptease artist now.
I watch the tills, Julie.
You have got too sensible, Dave. That's all I can say. Just watch the dicky
Promotion
bow.
to cloakroom attendant for Dave Brown.
Dave
yeah.
Stringfellow now.
Here from cleaning, I've been the head cleaner, head barman.
So pretty much the jobs you did here then, Dave.
It sounds like a suitable candidate for the 8 to 10 programme. That's all I can say.
Right, that's how I got it, and
He's always had-
I think was my past experience.
Always had the cleanest head in radio, did Dave?
Dave, thanks ever so much
All
for
right.
joining us tonight.
I
I'm
wish
glad
all
you
well,
have.
and let me take this opportunity to wish well also the Radio Kent listeners.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure they'd all say hi to you. Your name's been mentioned a lot. Cheers. Thanks a lot then. Bye.
Bye, Dave.
Oh, that's great. We managed that. That's brilliant. So we eventually chased up Dave Brown. Let's go to Celia in Tunbridge Wells to slip her in before the news.
Not Celia.
Oh, yes, it's Celia.
dear.
And then before,
feel
after 9,
problems
we'll do some more
coming in
cards.
here.
Celia, hello.
You're not that terrified of me, are you, Bob?
I certainly am, dear. How are you?
What did you do to her?
Gorgeous, scrummy creature.
A woman obviously doesn't know me too well, does she?
Doesn't she? She
No.
remembers you from... Oh, gosh, do you remember that day at Brands Hatch?
Yes, I certainly do.
Yes. How about Eric?
Well, he should be appearing, we hope, in the next hour, but he works for extremely exorbitant prices these days, being a Midland superstar as he is.
Well,
you
I
see.
can remember panicking through 3 years of university with him.
Yes, I know, and he's still panicking to this day. And he has- at least for this-
Never.
yes,
He was a
is.
very intelligent person. He was
Whatever happened to him, yes.
Yeah. So how long have you been listening to the 8 to 10 then, Celia?
Oh, I can be spot on. The 17th of February 1985.
Gosh, so who was on presenting at that time then?
Rod Lucas and the Weirdy Beardy.
The Weirdy Beardy? What was
Dick
that then?
Brignall, who used to go out and about phoning in from phone boxes around, and yeah, it sounds rather salacious, but it wasn't anything like that at all. He used to appear at locations in the county and ring in and get people to do dedications and cheers and whatever. And very popular it was too, and I'm sure Dick's listening tonight, so I wish him well.
Yeah, Weirdy Beardy, I like it. We haven't got any Weirdy Beardies tonight for us, Celia. But what do you remember most over the years then for the 8 to 10 show?
The quality.
Never mind the quality.
That's right, just dumbfounded here.
Yes, we've all got a big silence. There's nothing
One
we
thing
can
we'd
say to
forgotten.
that. Yeah.
You were all brilliant. You'd all got your own individual styles, but you were all good.
Oh, well, that's pretty nice. There's nothing we can say about that, is there?
I don't know if anybody remembers. I think it was when Bob was on. It went
dear.
through a phase of... There was a lady at the post office at St James's in Tunbridge Wells who always used to phone you up.
When was that?
I think she was a mature lady.
I think that was Wynne, wasn't it, in Tunbridge Wells?
Sounds like
That's it.
Wynne it was, yes.
And then was there Don or Doug who used to do the poetry?
Yes, Doug the guy,
Doug,
yes, I
yeah.
remember Doug, yes.
He was brilliant.
He was superb. He was, I don't think he was blind,
I
wasn't
don't think
he, or
he is
something?
anymore, unfortunately.
Yes, that's
Was he
right.
called
But
Dusty?
Well, Dusty
Dusty.
it was. Dusty, that's
I knew
right.
it started with a D.
That's right. Yes, there's some. Oh, they were the real old timers were on regularly, weren't they?
Yes, they were really good.
Yeah. Oh, such memories. Anyway, Celia, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for a marvellous programme, and I'm just looking forward to when you all come back again.
Well, I'm not sure about when that might be, but you never know your luck.
Well,
Okay.
we'll keep listening.
Thank you, Celia. Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Oh, you got a bit worried there, didn't
I
you, Bob?
certainly did. Oh, I'm glad she's gone now.
We're fast coming up to the news. I don't think we've got time to slip in one quick card, have we, before the news?
Yes, a very quickie. To Julie, to Gavin, to Pat Marsh and all the ex-presenters of the 8 to 10 show, we will miss you, but still listen to you, Julie, 5 to 8 every week on Fridays. The best of health to you all. Love, Alice and Ted Sales, I think it is. We hope to have a photo of you one day. Thank you very much indeed for your card.
Right, I'll sort the photo out. Join us after 9 for more fun and games.
BBC Radio Kent.
The closing down ceremony, as it was so beautifully put last night by one of the callers. Yes, everything must go. This is the final. So what can we sell off? Bob?
Well, you won't get much
Take
from
your
me.
T-shirt off.
Dave Austin might go for a bit more than me.
Oh, I don't... give us a twirl, Dave.
Depends if you're talking about bulk, really.
It's that dress, actually.
Well,
you know, the one that
getting
clashes
ready
with
for
your
the Panto.
headphones.
Plugging.
Oh, no, he's not.
Oh, yes, he is.
Come on, let's have some of these old cards and things, and then we'll be talking to Alan in Dover and Charles.
Yay! Sorry. Just the name of Alan in Dover
Yes,
excites
I know. Just calm down. Just calm down.
Next.
Right, go on, Jonathan. Hit
All
us
right
with
then,
something.
I'll go first. I've got 2 letters, both of them lovely. I'll do this one first. It's from Claire Morgan, and it's a lovely picture of the BBC Radio
Keep
Kent
your hands
logo.
off those roses, Austin.
Piggy's eating all this chocolate.
Doesn't know where Rose has been either.
She's got on the front cover, thanks for the 8 to 10 show. And then she writes inside, I've enjoyed the 8 to 10 show, although I've only listened to it for a couple of months. And she says, Dave Austin and Pat Marsh to remind me that they have got a brilliant show. So there you are, Dave, one of your fans there.
And I think, didn't she say something about she was ill and it's helped her through or something?
Yep, she said, P.S. you've cheered me up when I was ill.
That's
So
nice.
that's
Thanks
good,
ever so much for that one. And the picture you drew on the front. Very good.
Right, so this one is actually a fax. It just shows you we're into the modern era now. We didn't have those things when we started this programme in 84, whenever it was. Dear Julie, this one comes from Trinity Square in Margate. It says, remember sort of Clive Dunn voice, really, the Wednesday evening cookery sessions.
Oh, yes,
and the sunrise salad that appeared before your eyes in the studio.
And divine it was.
Well, all that finished, and now we're losing the best evening show of all. Betsy and I make it, as it must be John then, I remember John, make it 12 presenters on a regular basis.
Yep.
So let's just check them off, make sure we've got them all right. In fact, he misses Rod out, because I think Rod was prior your time, John. Dave Brown, Jim Ensom, Jerry Savage creeps in there. We think Jerry was sort of holding the fort a couple of times. They're not a regular, but Jerry certainly did do it a couple of times. You just electrocuted yourself, you're all right. Me, yourself, Sally, Eric, Helen, Russell, Gavin, Dave Austin and Manic Marshy. But we think there might have been a couple of them we've missed. Well, I think you've got all of them I can think of. Brian Faulkner, question mark. Yes.
Take that as you will.
My mate Roy from Deal said it all, really. We understand the reasons, but we're still going to sorely miss the sense of camaraderie that epitomised the 8 to 10 show, even when battling with Essex over a ping-pong table. I remember those Monday night ping-pong games. Those of us lucky enough to have a spouse or other members of family with us will still have that privilege. We're one of those to whom the show was their window on Kent. I could have a few, could name a few. No, I could have a few, actually, if you're offering. They pop up every now and then, but they will feel an even smaller part of a faceless world. It does go on. It's another page. If we get time, we'll read the rest of it later.
But thanks, John and Betsy.
Thank you, John and
for that.
Betsy.
Yeah, really nice. And I certainly do remember all the wonderful cookery things. Before we go on, we must go to some of the calls because people are hanging on. So we'll take some more letters and cards in a moment. Alan in Dover, the famous Alan in Dover, the taxi driver. Hello.
Hello, boy.
Hello.
Alan. He's not got a fare, has he?
Turn the meter on.
This used to be a problem with Alan because he'd often get a fare and then have to dive off.
You're there, aren't you, Alan? You are there. Good man. Well done.
I'm here.
You're far too late to be controversial now, Alan.
Well, yeah, it is really, Dave, but...
Go on, say something.
I switched over cars about 5 or 6 weeks ago, so of course I lost you.
Ah.
I didn't lose the radio, but I lost my telephone, so... I was what they call, what is it? Knackered or something?
Something like that. So, are you going to say something really proverbial now?
Well, not really, except that I suppose they're still going to keep that other show on a Saturday night, are they?
What other show on a Saturday night?
That other show that comes on Saturday evenings. I mean...
Are you being controversial here?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, well...
Be careful.
We have to lose you, I mean, well... I mustn't say too much, must I?
No.
No, just shut up, Alan.
Otherwise, we'll end 50 minutes earlier than we thought we would.
Listen, the programme organiser's hanging around, so we've got to mind our P's and Q's. All right.
Indeed. But anyway, it's been a lovely show.
Thanks.
And I purposely haven't phoned you, my love, because you sound far too nice to be wound up.
Oh, thanks a lot, Alan. Thanks a lot. Gets me bubbling like a pot, but he doesn't worry about upsetting Julie.
Listen, I'm willing to be wound up any time and have done many a time. But anyway, Alan, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm glad you did, because your name's been mentioned.
My regards to Dave and all the rest of the crew, and let's just hope that one day they'll come back again.
Thanks a lot, Alan.
Bye, Alan.
Bye. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Cheers. We'll leave Alan bobbing around in his taxi, have a word with Charles, and then Eric Dixon.
Oh, the Eric Dixon.
Hello, Charles.
Hello, Julie.
Hello. Nice of you to come back again and join us.
Well, Julie, I've been a great fan of the 8 to 10 show, not quite since it started, but certainly during the days of Jim Emerson.
Right.
And certainly during Joey Savage's days, and Pat Marsh, of course, and Dave Austin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Dave.
He's not listening at the moment.
Listening.
He's taking his headphones
fiddling
off.
around with cards.
He's touching the flowers, is he?
What's you saying, boy?
Touching Rose at the moment.
He was saying hello to you.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Dave.
Hello.
This is Charles.
I used to listen to you as well when you were doing it with Pat Marsh.
Oh,
You're quite a glutton for punishment, really, one way and another then, Charles, aren't you?
No, Julie, of course not. Especially when you're on. But I will be listening to your new show.
Good for you. That's what I like to hear.
I tell you one of the things that I think I should say, really, and it hasn't been really said yet. We mustn't forget the backroom people, such as those who operate the phones, like Tony and
Thank you. Actually, I did mention them right at the top of the programme. Sally, Kevin, Tony, Mike and Janine.
Yes, I mean, without them, we wouldn't have had an 8 to 10.
No, we wouldn't, exactly.
I mean, it was their coordination, and of course the listeners taking part as well, that really did help.
I think a combination of them on the phones and the listeners definitely made the show, and the presenter just sort of fiddled around in the middle of it all.
By my reckoning...
Before I shoot away, Julie,
yes.
I think Bridget is upstairs on the other line. She's going to pick up the phone in a minute and have a quick chat and a quick hello and goodbye to you all.
If it could just be very quick, because obviously we've got a lot of people to talk through tonight. Hello, Bridget. Thanks for joining us.
Julie, thanks for everything you've done. And Bob,
yeah.
in particular, I'll never forget what you did for me one day.
He's still got a smile on his
Don't go
face.
any further.
Just be very careful. Yeah, I don't think he's forgotten either, Bridget.
It wasn't anything like you're thinking. You might as well tell him. Go on.
Well, no. The record that I was trying to hear, and we had trouble in getting it, and you got it from London eventually.
That's right.
That's Versailles.
I felt a bit like Jimmy Savile. How's about guys and girls? The record you were looking for.
Bob fixed it for you.
Since March '87, and it really has been a good time. And I remember the time at Christmas, Julie, when I played the accordion, absolutely made a fool of myself. Nevertheless, it was great times, but who knows? I reckon one day, who knows, he'll be back.
Well, Bridget, thank you to you and Charles. It was great to have had you along.
God bless you in the Garden of England.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye. And now, fanfares. We go all the way up the M1 and find Eric Dixon. Hello.
M45, just round the corner. Turn back to the pub.
Again, I don't know how.
Have you got a log sheet for that?
Julie.
Hello, boy. How are you?
Bob.
Hello,
Hello, Dave.
Bob, Dave, we're all here. We're all listening. How's it going?
It's going really well. I'm so sad to hear that the 8 to 10 will soon be no more. This is not fair.
I know. I know. It's very sad.
There's no chance of the odd bit of work when I come back to the problem. How are things going with you three? Anyway, it's ages since we've spoken.
Well, this is true. Well, I think probably you ought to tell everybody what you're doing now, Eric, because I think they all want to know.
Well, basically, as little as possible. To be totally honest, I'm thinking of becoming a BBC producer. I'm doing so little, but in fact, I don't know if that's actually... No, I'm presenting a 6-day-a-week mid-morning show for a radio station in the Midlands called CWR, which is Coventry and Warwickshire Radio, and I do the kind of Pat Marsh type slot, although nobody, of course, can do it quite like Pat Marsh can do it, but I do 10 till 12, whereas Pat does, what is he, 9:30, 11:30 on Christmas?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, I do 10 till 12, so it's a similar sort of slot.
But in your own inimitable way. That's the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I've just been given a glass of bubbly something. I think it's only apple juice, but I was having problems with me inimitable.
We are the BBC.
Well, I've got nothing quite as flash as that, but I'll have an odd sip of the Midlands water on your behalf, and I shall really miss it, because when I pop down, obviously, if I'm not working on the programme, then I tune in. So,
okay.
Do you have anything like that up at CWR, like an 8 to 10 type show?
Well, we sort of do. There's a show between 9 and midnight, and it's not called the 9 to Midnight Show. That would be a blooming good name for it, but it isn't. It's called John Tainton, which happens to coincide with the name of the presenter, which is...
My goodness me, they're excelling themselves there, aren't they?
I mean, the Midlands have this degree of, sort of organisation.
They're really intelligent up there, aren't they?
We don't all speak like that up here, for goodness sake. Anyway, and it's called John Tainton, and it's a kind of similar show, except it's not only on CWR, it's on about 11 Midland stations altogether.
Right. Well, the message has just come in from Wendy in Detling, who particularly wanted to send her regards to you, Eric.
Wendy, you're wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.
There we are. Anybody else want to say anything, particularly to Uncle Eric?
Have you got your furniture now, Erky?
Yes.
Yes. The last time I saw Erky, I slept at his flat in Coventry, and there was very little to sit on or do anything except look at. He's got a fabulous hi-fi. Yes.
I just remember what we had to ask you, Eric.
What?
Eric,
Yeah.
I'm having little signals from here. Do tell us about a certain stripogram.
Is this Ballard encouraging you?
No, of course, there's nothing to do with Bob Ballard at all.
Which was this a stripogram at Kent or a stripogram at CW?
This was at Kent with a certain person called Rod Lucas.
Yes, I remember there was a stripogram in the past that was deeply embarrassing, but I don't know...
Oh,
Come on, we want it.
Out with it.
Let's have the full works.
Was this an evening strip? I don't know if I'm remembering the right stripogram.
He's had so many.
How many were there then, Eric? I don't remember one.
What did you want me to say?
Well, we had an inquiry from somebody earlier on about this thing that you and a certain Mr. Lawrence foisted upon me.
Yes!
Yes.
Oh, you mean with the fuzzy string, whatever it's called? Oh, I remember.
We're getting
Julie,
interested
I don't think you were
now.
around at the time. It took it must have been 3 hours to clear the studio.
Good grief.
We had Bob Ballard looking the most interesting sort of sight you've ever seen, because Bob with, what's it called? Is it crazy string?
Yeah, silly string. Or
Crazy string, silly string, whatever it's called, and custard pies and goodness knows what in his face. It was very entertaining, apart for Bob, I think. But there we are. It's a bit of a shame, but that's how it goes, really. We enjoyed ourselves.
Well, I think we generally get the picture there. Another message coming in for you, Eric.
Yes.
Before you go, Joan and Hazel. I'm sure you remember Joan and Hazel.
I remember Joan and Hazel, my darlings.
Well,
I've missed them.
They want to know if you still have the manual toothbrush that they bought for you.
Yes, I do. We were talking one night about electric toothbrushes, and regardless of what the adverts on the television try and tell people, electric toothbrushes are a load of old tosh. So waste of time. Go back to the manual ones like what Joan and Hazel have.
Right. And in your beautiful commercial adverty voice, Eric.
From the BBC in the Midlands.
Listen, thanks a million for joining us tonight. It wouldn't have been the same without you.
Oh, you say the nicest things, Julie. Best of luck in everything else, and I'm surprised you're still talking to people like myself once I hear you on Radio 5. Still there. Thank you very much.
Good luck, Eric. Bye from everybody. Bye. Bye. And not only do we have now lost Eric Dixon, but we're going all the way up, I think, to possibly Edinburgh.
Sally.
To his youngest lass.
Hello, gang.
Hello.
Hello to you, Julie. Yes, we're way up here in Edinburgh.
Sally, it's brilliant you've joined us. Honestly, we've all been trying to track you down. The number of people who've said to me, Julie, what happened to Sally when she went to America?
Oh.
Where is she? You'll have to fill us in on the story, Sally. We all want to know.
Well, that's really nice that people are still asking after me, Julie. Well, when I left Radio Kent, I went off to America to work in a radio station out there. I was there for 18 months, and I was doing the breakfast program out there, which was a real difference from doing the evening program, the 8 to 10 show as it was then. I don't know if it's still called that. But
yes, it is. Yes.
And I came back from America last March, and I decided to come back to my home country of Scotland, and I've been here ever since.
So what are you actually doing now then, Sally?
Well, unlike Eric, what was his name again?
Dixon, yes.
Right. Unlike Eric,
That guy.
I'm not working for any BBC radio stations at all. I'm working in public relations at the moment.
Oh, right.
And so I took a bit of a change of direction in my career.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you went to America, though, was it all you expected it to be, or was it totally a disillusioning experience, or what?
It was a bit of both, really. It was all very exciting at the time, and it was very interesting to see how radio works over there because, it's very different from the way they do it on the BBC, as you can imagine. And I had my ups and downs, and it took quite a lot of getting used to. But, it's also very difficult moving to a whole new country because it's not like moving to a different job. It's like, moving your whole lifestyle and your whole social circle to a completely different place. And so it takes quite a lot of getting used to. But I enjoyed most of it. But I did get homesick, and
you're glad to be back.
Glad to be back. But, even when I was over there doing the breakfast program, Julie, I took part of the 8 to 10 show with me because Stan the man.
Yes.
Stan did regular Monday morning phone-ins for us, and he used to scan all the daily papers, and he used to tell us what the royal family were up to and what was happening to all the famous people over here in Britain. And my audience in America, they used to get a real kick out of that. I think sometimes they perhaps didn't understand his accent, but they just loved that. And so if Stan's listening, then Stan, thank you for that. And why haven't you replied to my letter?
Oh, well, slap on the knuckles
Stan
for
in Herne
Stan.
Bay.
Yes,
phone,
my
boy.
goodness me, I didn't realise he was such a little star over in the States.
Absolutely.
Gracious me, I'd have treated him a whole deal differently. But can you remember your very first day on the 8 to 10 show here at Radio Kent?
No.
Does it not stick in your mind? Does any particular night stick in your mind?
I think probably all of them did, for different reasons. But I suppose the one that sticks in my mind most was my very last programme, and because that was when I was delivered with a huge, enormous bunch of flowers from the Nolan sisters. And because at that point, the Nolans, who live in Kent, were listening to the programme, and they'd become quite big fans. I'm sure they listened to it when you were on air too, Julie. But they'd written to me to say, sorry to hear you're leaving, and here's this enormous bunch of flowers.
Oh, how lovely. Very romantic. Well, Sally, it's brilliant you've managed to join us. Joan and Hazel have called in to say, how did the sausage saga go down in America?
Oh, listen, Joan and Hazel would hate it in America because they don't have round sausages over there. The sausages over there, they're all flat.
I seem to remember the sausage saga started with Gin Ensom, didn't it, that sausage saga?
That's right.
And it kind of went on and on and on one way and another.
They eat sausages with their pancakes over there. They do very odd things.
Oh, Sally, Stan has just joined us. Would you like a word?
I'd love a word.
OK, Stan, hello.
Hello,
This is going to be a bit difficult because of all the howling.
Sally.
But have a word.
Hello. Listen, I didn't write because you didn't put the address on the top.
Oh, I'm sure I did. Did I not? That's really forgetful of me. I'm sorry. How are you doing?
Oh, not too bad at all. I'm glad to hear you.
Well, I'm glad to hear you too. What are you going to do when the 8 to 10 show isn't going to be on the air anymore, Stan?
Well, Sally, one thing that's got up my nose, Julie has missed one of the presenters out. Do you remember I came down with you one night and I was the co-presenter with you?
Of course.
In actual fact, one of the girls rang up last night, Julie, Miranda from Basildon.
That's right. Billericay, actually, she's from.
She rang last night and it reminded me of it because she phoned through when I was at the station there.
Oh, well, there you are. Well, you've met up with Sally at last, even if the letters didn't get through. Stan, thanks ever so much for joining us, because he's been a staunch supporter of the programme.
Stan, bye-bye. Can I give my address on air for Stan?
I think it might be better if you give it to Mike afterwards, Sally, and we'll pass it on to Stan and anybody else who wants it, if that's okay by you. Rather than giving it out across the air, probably the best idea. All right.
Because there was a lot of the 8 to 10 gang who kept in contact.
And starting a Friday programme between 5 and 8 at Radio Kent, and doing stuff for Radio 4 and Radio 5, basically. So freelancing merrily, and I had a little boy in the middle of it all, so, so we're going merrily along. Yeah, so it's great. Well, sometime when you're down from Edinburgh, you must call in and see us all.
I'll certainly do that.
OK, it'd be great to see you again, and thanks ever so much for joining us.
All the best to you, Julie.
Take care, you too.
Bye to everybody.
Bye to everybody. Bye-bye. Thanks, that was great. Right, we got hold of Sally. Now you all know what's happened to Sally, because I know a lot of people are concerned. We'll have a word with Barbara in Sittingbourne, and we must do some more of these cards and letters. Hello, Barbara.
Hello, Julie.
Hello, nice of you to join us.
I wanted to say to Sally...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you remember she was on that cash dispenser in America?
That's right. I was going to ask about that, but I wasn't sure of the details of it.
She still does it.
I think Mike might still be talking to her, actually. Mike, are you still talking to Sally out there? Oh, he's just going to try and ring her back. So, if we'll ask her. All right. Can you ask her about the cash dispenser? He's looking at me, most puzzled.
You remember that chap from America was besotted with Sally's voice, wasn't he?
That's right, and that's how she went there.
Up with it. He wanted her to answer on the machine when they got their money from the bank.
That's right. I presume she must have done that along with the radio programme, but actually didn't mention it. I didn't really like to ask, but perhaps we'll find out.
Her most memorable evening was when she went live, and we spoke to the chap that ran the radio station in America. She joined up with him one evening.
That's right, of
and you
course.
could actually speak to him.
Yes, that was exciting, wasn't it? Good bit of technology there. And of course, Barbara, you've been with the programme a good number of years too.
Well, I go back to Rod Lucas days. In fact, I jotted a few things down. Love to Joan and Hazel.
Right.
I met them through this programme. And Glad from Tenterden.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the night Jim Ensom became an uncle. He spent the whole of his 8 to 10 that evening telling us about his the new baby in his family.
Sorry, thing.
And love to Sally Kimber. She might be listening because she used to chat to me on the phone while we were waiting to come on air.
Right.
And Gavin made a gooseberry crumble on air when I sent you some gooseberries from our massive garden.
That I remember well. Yes,
and
yes, I
put
do.
Enough sugar in, and you went, yeah.
It was really sharp. Yes, I remember that very well.
And also, I wondered if he was listening. Do you remember a man called, I think his name was Christopher, and he was very, very posh.
Yes, I do. Had beautifully spoken.
Man.
I think he was from Essex, but I remember beautifully spoken.
Oh, lovely. Yes, he used to phone in ever such a lot, didn't he?
He did. Well, if he's listening tonight, perhaps he'll give us a call.
So he had a lovely voice, didn't he? And then the other, do you remember a very little girl called Tracey? She wrote a story, and every week she'd phone in and give a
little bit more of it.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that very, very clearly. Yeah, that was right.
Really good days, weren't they?
They were, Barbara. We've had some fun and games, I must admit. And
I'm really sorry that it's all finishing.
Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
That's okay, Julie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye then.
Bye-bye.
Irregulars, they didn't come more regular than Jenny and Ron Brett and family in Chislehurst. I've still kept most of the letters from the 8 to 10 show.
Lovely
other
cards and things they've sent, yeah.
And here's a lovely one to say, sorry you're leaving. Here's the saddest goodbye that's ever been said. To all 11 presenters. Amazing how many people keep a note of this. You know? We found it hard racking our brains during the week trying to remember how many there were and who they were. But no problem for Jenny.
It was 12 actually, we decided in the end.
Well,
She just
yes,
forgot
but
one
not
there.
that far. So those who worked on the 8 to 10 show with Mike Lawrence and etc. on the phone, to Rod, to Jim, Eric, etc., you did a wonderful job, and we're going to miss all the fun and chat. Every time I read this, it makes me feel very sad. Good luck and God bless from Jenny and Ron Brett.
And by the magic of telephone, Jenny's on the phone now.
Here.
Yes, hello.
My tissue box is empty, Julie.
Oh,
So,
Jenny.
we better club together and get some.
That I wanted to say about the kissogram, which sticks in my mind more on anything. Absolutely hysterical.
Please, no more about that.
This famous kissogram, yes.
Does Bob remember, or does everybody remember Ron and Flo from Faversham?
Certainly
Don't
do.
hear them these days.
No, I wonder if they're still around.
No, they were the absolute mainstay of the programme, weren't they?
They were indeed.
Yes.
I wonder if they're still around.
Yes. Well, if they are, perhaps they'll give us a call tonight as well. But
Jenny, sorry,
go on,
Julie,
Bob.
do you remember, in fact, I've just been reminded of this by our programme organiser, a few times more than a few times, certainly when the exchanges have been changed in this area, we've had loads of cross lines. And there were a couple of times where listeners were actually talking to each other without getting on air. There's a couple of times a very weird occurrence happened, whereby the telephone exchanges became overloaded because we only have 5 lines, and on very busy nights, get more calls than the exchange can handle. And I can remember, certainly before we had this new System X exchange that we have now at Radio Kent, callers weren't getting through to us, they were just getting through to each other. They were ringing through and having having their own 8 to 10 show on the phone. And there was like conference lines going on all over the county. That happened a few times. It probably happened to you, Jenny, once or twice, didn't it?
It has. Can you remember Gramps from Chelmsford? Don't you hear him these days?
No, there's lots of
names. Made so many friends over the years. It really is sad. And to lose Michael Smith and dear old Simon Evans, after all those years.
I know, it's very difficult, it really is. And
I'm sure they've done the best they can possibly do, Julie.
Well, this is it, you've got so much money to play around with, and you've got to do what you can with it. But hopefully the things that have been changed and the new programmes that are coming, I'm sure everybody will enjoy, and you've just got to give it all a chance. Don't be too hasty in making, your decisions about it. Well, Jenny, thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
again...
Before I go, Julie, would
yes.
Dave say, hello, lovey? in his inimitable voice.
Who? Dave Austin. Dave, quick, in here.
Dave, in here, boy.
He's just rushed out to help Mike on the phone. He's coming here. Here he comes, running down.
Quick, hide the roses.
It's a request.
A request. Sorry, yes, lovely.
Can you repeat your request, Jenny, please?
I must have a goodbye, lovey.
Lovey.
That'll keep you going for a while, won't it, Jenny? Bye-bye. Thank you, Jenny. Bye-bye. That's smashing. Oh, I've never heard you do it quite like that before,
Julie,
Dave.
I'm emotional tonight, darling.
Listen, I've got a wonderful card here from Jean and family from Trotsley. Thank you ever so much, Jean. A lovely long letter. I won't read it all. I appreciate the efforts you've gone to keep various programmes going. You've written to MPs and all sorts of people. Thank you for that. And thank you very much indeed for the mention to all the presenters who've been involved with the programme, and the lovely card too. Bob.
Yes, I do. I have another one. I was just trying to peruse it and praise it a bit because it's quite long, as are many of the letters. Thank you to everybody who's written into the programme. A regular radio fan, that's all that is said at the bottom of this letter, from Ipswich. It's showing that the 8 to 10 show boundaries went far and wide, went virtually nationwide at times. Dear Julie, this letter says that an 8 to 10 show listener, in fact, somebody who's been listening for a long, long time and mentions all the presenters we mentioned earlier on, is going to miss the programme greatly. Whoever you are, regular radio fan in Ipswich, thank you very much indeed for your letter.
That's nice. Another one here, talking of Ipswich. This is Felixstowe, so it's all the same sort of direction. And this is from Trixie. Good evening to you, Trixie. Thank you for your notelet. Just to say, I think it's a cruel blow to discontinue the 8 to 10 show. There is no other programme at 8 o'clock to compare with this. It's a clean family show. Well, it was on most nights. I don't know about tonight. Enjoyed by a large number of people. And it was 2 days after the great storm in October 1987 when I first found your programme. I was not feeling very well at the time, but quickly felt invigorated and have listened each evening ever since. So here's a very special thank you, Julie, and also to many of the others, Gavin, Eric and everybody. It was such fun to be with you, and you're all super presenters. And she says thank you very most sincerely for the 8 to 10 show. That's a really nice letter. Thanks, Trixie.
Thank you.
Now then, at that point, as we're mentioning presenters, perhaps we ought to hear from one or two others who've left messages. How about this gentleman? Do you recall Mr. Jim Ensom?
It's that old tune again. Good evening, this is Jim Ensom, and on this final night of the phone-in show, I'd just like to send best wishes to everyone and wish you good luck and success in the future. And good luck and listen out on Monday for the Steve Richards programme, when you'll be joined together with all of us, and I shall be listening too. So from me, Jim Ensom in Suffolk, best wishes and thanks for listening.
Well, there you are. The one and only Jim Henson. He is the sausage fame. That's about the one thing I'll never forget, because the first time I ever heard a bit, when I was up in Radio Cumbria and was asked to come down and do this programme, they sent me up a cassette of Jim's, and it was Hazel going on about her sausages, and I thought, oh my goodness, I can't cope with this.
You know, I started my career at Radio Kent phone flicking for Jim.
Did you, by Jove? Now look where you are.
Yeah, look, I've moved all of 2 inches in all those years.
Right, let's move on to some more letters.
No, I've finished mine.
Have you done that? Right, I shall dole out a few more.
Give me some more then.
Somebody's got a really brilliant idea, Mr. Roy. I think that is. I can't read it. Or Roy and Henley. There's one there. This one's from Mrs. Norris, who's in Strood. Hello, Mrs. Norris. You haven't given your first name. It begins with E. Would you please send me a copy of the cartoons? I've sorted that out. It's on its way. And I'm very sorry that the 8 to 10 show is ending this week. It's been 6 to 7 years good entertainment from Radio Kent. I'm sure that so many of us will miss it such a lot. Nothing at all to look forward to anymore. Oh, that sounds very empty, Mrs. Norris. I'm sure there are things. Just keep tuning in and you'll find them. I'd like to thank everybody and all concerned for such good entertainment. Right.
Roy Henley.
Roy
Henley has been a mine of information over the last few weeks and months on the 8 to 10 show. Anything you care to mention, you just name a topic and Roy will go into his database and he will bring out a wealth of information about it. He's the group advisor and public relations officer for the 1st Brockley Cross Scout Group. And he's brought that weighty position to bear to help the BBC many times. He's got a suggestion about the 8 to 10 show, which I don't think is going to be taken up by the powers that be, Roy. And that's a sort of rotating thing, that you do a BBC Bedfordshire on a Monday and then a Cambridgeshire and a Peterborough on a Tuesday. It'd be a nightmare to administer, Roy, and it would cost 10 times as much as just doing this one. But thanks for the idea, thanks for the letter, and thanks for all the information.
And a letter here from Deal. This comes from Roy and Ros Foster and Toby and Petru, who I know have been calling us regularly on the programme. It's a lovely letter, and you've been very kind in what you've said, and you did have an idea to start something rolling, which I'm afraid isn't possible. Thank you for the kind thoughts. I won't go into any further than that, but I do hope the manager will be writing to you about
It's 23 minutes, Jules. I mean, you know.
No. But thanks very much indeed for a very kind letter and all your support over the years.
Do you know one thing that hasn't improved since 1984?
What's that?
The handwriting.
Right.
I think the handwriting has actually got worse. I can speak with authority because I have probably the world's worst handwriting. But there's somebody who rivals me very closely, so much so I can't even read the name at the bottom. I know it's Dorothy, and you're from Beaumont Avenue in Clacton-on-Sea. What is that surname, Dave?
Looks like Hacker or
It could be Hex.
Hacker. Anyway, Dot. Yes, thanks for that.
You know who you are.
And she says, Dear Julie, it's with sadness I write, knowing that the 8 to 10 show will soon be a memory. Like your previous lady presenter, you were compulsive listening. This is going to make her blush.
Is that Pat you're talking about?
You know something we don't then, obviously. Your callers added spice to the programme, especially the children with their clear diction. Not Eric Diction, but clear diction. And points of view. I can see some budding presenters for the future. They all deserved a goodie bag. I lived in Kent for a number of years when this is when we had problems. Over Gillingham. Yes. It looks like the Fergal shark he brooded over Gillingham. I don't think it is. They were quite a landmark. No doubt you have heard the story, blah, blah, blah. Thank you very much indeed. It goes on. But very nice letter, Dorothy. Thank you very much indeed. From Clacton-on-Sea in Essex.
It's nice to see that you've lost none of your smoothness.
Exactly.
Next time, could you do it in Braille?
Well, I've got one here who's actually typed it out, which is rather impressive. This is from Frank Slade, who lives at Harms Park, London E4. He says, as you'll see from my address, I'm not a Kentish man, but have enjoyed the 8 to 10 show for a very long time, and I'm very sorry indeed that it comes to an end on Friday today. He's given me a few riddles and rhymes and things, but we were doing that earlier on in the week. I think they're ones that you'll all know anyway about, round the rugged Roswell Ran and all that lot. But he said they were all ones that he was given by his father as far back as about 1914, when I were a boy of 14 myself. How time flies. Jonathan and James are both 14, aren't you? I bet you weren't given that by your father. Anyway, he says, I listen to your programme lying in bed as I'm alone and fast approaching 86 years of age. All the best for the future. And he apologises for any typing errors. Well, it's so beautifully written. I mean, it's dead easy to read that. And I hope you're impressed that I got Harms Park right. Because it looks like Hyams, you see.
What do you want, a round of applause?
Yes, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. OK, now then, how about a message? No, before we go to Pat Marsh, let's speak to Eileen in Four Elms, seeing as how she's waiting there on the phone.
Oh, Eileen.
We all know Eileen.
Hello, Eileen.
Hello. Speak to Dave and Bob and everybody, Eileen.
Hello there, all of you.
Hi, Eileen.
Hello. Well, I'm not going to get emotional.
Yes, you
although
are.
I feel... can I just say hello to Jenny and Ron? Because I've never met them. And when my husband died, they were just so supportive and so kind. And isn't it lovely when over the airwaves you get these lovely messages, Thank you both to them. And a lady mentioned Chris.
Yes,
Essex.
that's right.
And I was going to mention him too, because in his quiet way, I think he taught us 1 or 2 lessons. And I remember one Christmas, he was speaking, and I think he was in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
He was certainly disabled. And he said he really didn't want to go anywhere at Christmas time because invariably he got stuck in front of the television, and that was it. And I thought, my goodness gracious me, I hope some of us are taking that on board, when we've got disabled people around, not to just stick them in front of the television. I've loved the children, Julie, and I think we've got a lot to learn from them as well. The things that they come out with, they say. And there was a lady who used to play the organ for us.
Oh, yes, I remember that. I can't put a name to her, though, at the moment.
And the lovely lady of 90 who used to sing.
That's right, because I remember I always used to say from 4 to 90, didn't I? Because I think she was about our eldest listener. We had a 3 or 4-year-old once.
Because she's still around, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
And... I don't know. It's just been such a lovely band. I must just tell you this. I didn't have a TV until 1989, when a kind friend gave me one. And sometimes in the evening, when my husband would be sitting reading or something, I'd be in the kitchen cooking or whatever. And I remember one night it was getting near 8 o'clock, and I suddenly shouted, "Quick, put the radio on, it's nearly 8 o'clock." And I ran into the sitting room, fell over the dog, squashed the cat, and he just laughed and said, "Are you all right? Is Radio Kent really worth all that?" You know? I said, "Yes, it's quick, put it on."
I bet the cat and the dog didn't think so, though.
The cat disappeared, you know. But anyway, just a big thank you to all of you, to Gavin. See, I'm getting all tied up now, and to all the friends that you've met over the air and you've listened to, and hope they'd come on during the evening.
Great. Well,
and one thing I'm going to say, Midge, I think it was Midge who never did get her scroll from Pat.
Oh.
If there's one around, do send her one.
Well, we'll work on Pat when he comes back from his holiday, all right?
Thanks ever so much. Bye-bye, Dave, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Eileen. Thanks for all your support.
Very best to you all.
Thank you.
Thanks Good night.
Good night. Bye-bye. There you are, Eileen, sort of summing up the 8 to 10 show one way and another. As we've mentioned Scrolls and Pat Marsh, here is the gentleman himself.
This is rapidly turning into a sort of poor man's This Is Your Life for the 8 to 10 show. I'm sorry I can't be with you tonight, but via satellite I send this message of good luck, good hope, and above all, goodbye. I did the 8 to 10 show for about 18 months or so, or maybe even 2 years. I've always got a great deal of affection for it, because although it's an odd and unusual sort of an animal of a programme, it was the first I did on a regular weekday basis for Radio Kent. I remember, very much like today, there's that great community feel to the 8 to 10 show. People would phone up, not necessarily with a problem, but they just might mention they needed a bit of help and blow me down within minutes. The switchboard would be alight with people calling in from all over the county, enthusiastic to help. We did some odd things in those early days. We had a thing called Number 30. It was a sort of mini serial, if you like, kind of Dallas without the frocks. And it was a comic look and not a particularly historic or accurate look at the history of Radio Kent. That starred many Radio Kent celebrities. We also did a thing called Surprise Visits. I was the sort of thinking man's Cilla Black in those days. We used to have a phone call from a particularly nutty listener one night, and the following night, complete with a tape recording machine, and the whole of the 8 to 10 show gang would turn up on that listener's doorstep, much to their delight and surprise. And I was never hit once. So, like many people who have been on tonight, I take away a lot of affection and good memories from the 8 to 10 show.
Oh, thank you, Pat. That's lovely, isn't it? He's swanning away on a holiday at the moment, but thanks for the message, Pat. And, of course, I think we've managed to speak to most people. We're still trying to get hold of Russell, who I think is up in Manchester at the moment in a restaurant somewhere, so it's a bit difficult to get hold of him. And Gavin we can't speak to tonight. And Helen, of course, Helen Mayhew, she was also on the programme for a while. Unfortunately, she is not around, but she's on a station in London, Jazz FM, doing extremely well
She is
there.
indeed. I saw her the other day, and she does send her regards.
Did she? Lovely, great. Well, thank you to Helen there too. I must just read a poem here. Ken, thank you very much indeed. Ken, who sent me a beautiful bouquet of flowers yesterday. Absolutely, my house just looks wonderful. He's written so many poems. Ken, I haven't got time to read them all out. I'm most impressed by them, and as usual, they are brilliant, but I will keep them. But this one in particular I thought I ought to read, as it really sums up the whole of the programme. Lament for a programme loved and lost, says Ken. Each weekday evening we would settle down in quiet content to hear a well-loved voice. Good conversation or a chance to clown had long become the objects of our choice. The weather news was flashed when it was harsh to Kent and Essex for our peace of mind, outspreading to the Stour and Romney Marsh. The switchboard boys and girls were always kind. Each show presenter was a special friend. Nights recently we've played things for a laugh, such gladness tinged with sadness for the end. How much we owe those dedicated staff. Oh, let them know before the last departs, we took the 8 to 10 show to our hearts. So that's very nice, Ken. Thank you for penning that in your usual beautiful writing, and I was most impressed with the others too. Let's move to Hazel now. I think her name's been mentioned rather a lot in the programme. I assume it is Hazel Cooper.
Yes.
Hello, Hazel.
Hello.
Thank you so much for your card and letter
to
and everything.
to keep coming back, but Joan and I, we've been both mopping our eyes here.
Oh.
It's a very sad time, isn't it?
It is.
But, we just like to say goodbye to everybody, everybody that we've met through the radio and all the presenters, and I'd like to sing a little song.
It's not too long, is it, Hazel? No. Simply because we've got so many calls coming through. Off you go, then.
Wish you luck as we wave you goodbye. Cheerio, here we go on our way. Till we meet once again, you and I. Wish me luck as we wave you goodbye.
Oh, Hazel, lovely. I forgot what such a lovely voice you'd got.
I haven't, Joe.
Very impressed. Well, thank you to you and Joan. I mean, you've really have been staunch supporters of this programme.
It's been wonderful.
It has. It's a shame Jim's not here tonight because you really did have some giggles with him, didn't you?
I'd love to have sung Narcissus with him if he'd have been here.
Ah.
We did. You know, Norman Wisdom and Joyce Grenfell.
That's right, yeah.
We had great fun.
Hazel, just a quickie. We're going to eat your health here with a hazeline caramel chocolate.
Lovely, Bob. And it's lovely to hear you, Bob, again.
It's good to hear you as well. It's been a long time, hasn't it?
All the best. Joan's saying all the best.
Thank you both. Thank you very much.
Again.
Take care, both of you. Bye-bye. And we'll leave Hazel and Joan to commiserate over a box of tissues. Bob will tuck into a purple Hazel in a chocolate what's-it. Yeah. And Richard from Herne Bay has phoned out saying, don't forget the 1797 answer. Well, it's a good job you phoned, because I would have forgotten, to be honest, as is my want. It's, yes, that was the questionnaires quiz. Shut up, Bob. Just leave them on the table. Honestly, he's a noisy so-and-so, isn't he? 1797, that was the answer. The question was, when was the Longships Lighthouse erected? So now you know. That's a conversation stopper if I've ever heard one. Also, on the final night of the 8 to 10 show, would you believe, we've got 2 new listeners. And they're not my mum and dad. Now, they are Martin and Caroline, who work with Mr. Augustus Barnett, ho, 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 in Watling Street in Gillingham. That was a message from you, I assume, Mike. Take your hands off the
my hazeline caramel.
Mike has been flogging himself on the phone tonight. I hope you've all been nattering to him too. Been lots of calls coming in. So they're working for a certain off licence, are they? And you're waving a piece of paper at me, Mike, and looking sort
of
keen.
There are many people who have rung through with wishes. I'll read some of the ones we haven't, unfortunately, been able to get back to tonight. Olive in Lordswood, Betty in Ramsgate, Dorry in Raynham, Richard in Herne Bay, Ivy in Sandwich, Toby in Deal, Melanie in Maidstone, Simon, not sure where Simon is, Matthew in Paddockwood, and Anne in Chislehurst. They all sent their best wishes to all of us.
Oh, well, thank you very much indeed. And I say to our 2 new listeners, that's rather fine. I don't know why you chose today to listen, but it's a bit of the wrong moment, really, one way and another. But it's been busy on the old phones, hasn't it? Certainly the last few weeks we have, Mike. Can you recall any horrific moments as a phone answerer? The honourable phone answerer.
There's another kissogram story, I'm afraid.
Yes, of course, yours.
Yes, my birthday a couple of years ago, the 21st birthday kissogram, which involved everyone knowing about it on the whole station, it seemed, except me.
That's the whole idea.
You're so naive.
Lured in here, brought on air, and then, well, then I won't go into the details of this. Rather, shall we say,
unfortunate accident.
Overweight lady.
I can tell you the photos are changing hands for a very
well, that's right. I've managed to get hold of as many of the photos as I could, but I'm sure the negatives are still kicking around somewhere.
Well, I reckon it was your initiation ceremony somewhere, because it's about
something like that.
A couple of years or so that you've been with us doing this, isn't it? Now,
just over 2 years now.
That's right. And Tony, of course, used to sort of alternate with you, and he's off around the world.
We don't know where Tony is.
No, somewhere deepest somewhere
Perhaps we
around
could
Africa.
organise a transatlantic link-up.
Find out what he's doing. And Janine, unfortunately, couldn't join us tonight. But thank you very much from everybody, especially all the presenters, because without you answering the phones and sorting everybody out, we never have had the programme. So good on you, sunshine. Right.
BBC Radio Kids.
And back to our final few calls. You just got a chance to call in if you want to speak on air in the last 10 minutes of the programme. Glad in Tenderden's next. Hello, Glad.
Hello, Julie. I just couldn't let tonight go by without saying goodbye and thank you to you and all the other presenters for the programmes.
Thank you, Glad.
And also you were on about Flo and Ron.
Mm-hmm.
Flo used to ring in, play the organ, Dusty with his poems.
Right.
And also, I did hear Barbara earlier on. She used to write poetry, you know.
And sing too, didn't she?
Well, I've got several of her poems that she sent me.
Oh.
And, yes, I remember Bob you got there. I've spoken to him many a time.
How are you? All right?
Yes, thank you. How are you?
Good to hear from you again after all this time.
Pardon?
Good to hear from you again after all this
Yes,
time.
we thought you would disappeared off the earth or something. We haven't...
It seemed like it for a while, actually, but no, and I'm sitting in the land of the living, working in London now.
It's nice to hear the other old voices too, Jim Emerson. I shall never forget Jim, when he led me on that goose chase. When I rang up, he pretended he was another another young man, and I thought, oh, I'm all right here. You know. In a minute he's going to ask me out to a meal.
Just as well he didn't. He's got nasty habits.
And then just after, he told me it was him.
Oh, Jim was very good at leading people up the garden path. I never forget one call where he got a little boy going all the way upstairs and standing on his bed so he could hear the radio better. I thought it was brilliant.
And Eric.
And Eric and everybody tonight. Well, glad. Thank you very much too.
Just ask Eric if he enjoyed the holiday in the Bahamas without me.
Glad I can't actually ask him because he's gone now. We only had him on a brief moment on a phone call.
Well, anyway, best wishes to everybody, and I made a lot of friends on the 8 to 10 show.
Well, I hope you keep them all, Glad, and thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programmes. Because I say the 8 to 10 show wouldn't have been much without everybody phoning in and listening. Thank you to Emily from Chislett, who's called in to wish us all the very best of luck. Susan in Ramsgate also wants a word. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Julie.
Hello to you.
Not least.
Last but not least, not quite last either, I don't think, Susan. Nearly last there.
I've listened since Rod Lucas days.
Good for you. Another 7 or 8 yearer then.
Right. And I have talked, I have sung, and I've played the squeeze box on Radio Kent, apart from all the numerous times I've rung up.
Susan, you're multi-talented.
And I've enjoyed each and every one of show, and thank you to all the presenters.
Well, thank you very much indeed too, and thanks for joining us tonight.
All the best to you, and also to Stan, Herne Bay and Rosebery. I know their voices for years back.
Right, Susan, I'm sure they've heard that tonight, so thank you very much for joining us. We'll go to Ray in Larkfield next. Hello, Ray.
Hello there, Julie.
Hello there.
I don't know what I'm going to do now for inspiration for my cartoon.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I just want to ask Dave if he's had any dodgy curries lately, you know.
Don't
Yes,
remind
I was a little
him.
concerned about this impression you've got of me, Mark. It's
true. You should have phoned up from the curry restaurant.
I mean, everybody's portrayed on this cartoon doing something or other that's very much in nature, and I can see in all of them where you've got it from, and I'm sitting there saying about a dodgy curry looking decidedly unwell.
Well, I'm not too sure where he got mine from, actually.
What are you doing? I can't remember what you're doing.
I'm just standing there looking very buxom with blonde hair.
Oh, Julie, it can't be Julie. I mean, he's got you to a T apart from the hair colour.
Anyway, there'll be some more to come. Give you some fun.
Well, you keep doing it because he gave us all a good laugh, and lots of people are writing in for the cartoons, so thank you very much
I don't
indeed.
know what I'm going to do for inspiration. I suppose
You'll come up with something, Roy, no doubt.
Yeah, I can't get much out of Brian Hayes, I tell you.
No.
Not even a drink.
Well, listen to the new programmes on Radio Kent and the new lineup, and something might just inspire you there. All right.
Okay, best of luck to you
Thanks
all.
a lot then.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, dear. What about you, Jonathan? We've got 5 minutes left before we go to a couple more calls. You've been sort of involved with the programme when it was BBC Essex as well, and now you come on at the end of the Friday show. Anything you want to add to the general?
Yes, well, if it was a normal Friday, this time I'd be sitting in my room, bit of paper in front of me, thinking, oh, what a load of rubbish I'm going to speak. But I'd just like to say I've enjoyed it, and I wish you success to the radio station.
And it's kind of sort of got you on the road, because, I mean, you want to go into radio, don't you?
Yeah, I want to go into radio, and through you I've got another attachment somewhere else, so it's really good.
Yes, you've been doing some work from Radio 5, don't be modest.
Great station.
So, well, good luck. Let's give a general thank you to you, Jonathan. Thank you very much indeed. And James as well. I mean, I haven't actually asked you whether you're a budding presenter in the making or just an interested radio listener.
Well, I like listening to the radio, but I've got really connections in cookery.
Oh, well, why didn't you tell us about this at 8 o'clock and bring some food in for us?
Boy, doesn't he?
What connections do you have?
Well, I'm doing HE at school.
Mm-hmm. What's that? Home economics, yes.
And I like cooking at home.
Great. Well, next time you come round to this station, we expect something, a big gooey cake. What's your favourite dish?
Well, I haven't really got a favourite, but I like doing sponge.
And what do the family like you doing best?
Not giving them food poisoning.
I remember this
We're back to the
conversation.
curry again.
We certainly are. Well, you sort of look like a chef. I can imagine you in the white boofer and all the rest of it. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks to your dad for bringing you in. I know Jonathan's got a couple of mates who've brought him in tonight.
Can I say thanks to Steve and Paul over there in the corner for bringing me up.
Thanks. A couple of hospital radio lads, yes? Doing some work. Which hospital radio is it?
That's Southend and Rochford Hospital, and we're called Thameside Hospital Radio.
Right, so now you know. Let's go to Toby now and deal. Hello, Toby.
Hello.
Hello, So I'm glad you've joined us with your sparky voice on the last show. What last comments are you going to make?
I was going to say goodbye, good luck on your new show, and thank you.
Well, Toby, thank you very much indeed. You've been one of the great youngsters who's joined us on the 8 to 10 show.
Have a word as well.
Yes, Petra can. Hello?
Hello.
Hello, Petra. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, and goodbye.
Right. We'd like to say big goodbye to Dave and Bob and everybody.
Yeah, bye.
Well, I hear from Toby and Petra every day because they alternate on the drive time competition.
Right.
They phone in one and the other and they think we don't know, but we do.
But you do, yeah. You're a sneaky couple, but it's great to have you along. You keep listening to the radio. It's very important, all right? Bye-bye. And we'll leave Toby and Petra. I think Olive in Lordswood might just be our very last caller tonight. Hello, Olive.
Hello, Julie.
Hello to you. What comments would you like to make just at the end of the show?
Thank you very much for all you've done on the 8 to 10 show. And also David, what he's done for us all. And I did send Pat a card from France.
Good.
So I hope you got it.
And you've been listening for quite a while too, have you, Olive?
Well, I haven't had a radio for very long since I bought for my birthday and a cassette, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
so you left it rather late in life to become a radio fan then?
But I've really loved it.
Great. Well, I'm glad you found us eventually, Olive, and I'm sure you'll keep listening to Radio Kent.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Bye-bye, love.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And we'll leave Olive in Lordswood, her new radio. And another message, this one from Dorothy in Cottenham. And she has awarded this programme, now wait for this, the Global Mega Diamond-Studded Platinum Trophy for services to radio.
Oh, word.
How about
Where are we
that?
going to put it?
Well, who's going to have it on their mantelpiece, though? We're going to have to fight over this now, you see.
Can I just say that we've spoken, I think, to practically everybody from the past. Rod sent a message. The only person we haven't heard from is Russell. He's dining in a restaurant in London with 300 people. It's not booked under his name, and the manageress has gone to the band and she's had an announcement put over because I told her it was the 8 to 10 and it was desperately important, but he hasn't managed to get to us.
Oh.
On behalf of Russell, I'd like to say thank you.
That's very nice. Thank you. In fact, little messages coming up to say that they just can't get hold of Russell. I think the restaurant are finding it quite difficult to sort of haul him out from the general melee.
A refill's coming in.
Our programme organiser has just walked in. I've got to mention him because he's coming round with the apple ties or whatever it is.
A very special night tonight. The first time we've had a drink out of Clive.
Exactly. Probably the last time as well. But the time is just about coming up to the last 20 seconds of the programme. So can we all raise our glasses? You at home too, please. Let's say here's to the 8 to 10 show, first of all. A big chink. Here's to the 8 to 10 show. Here is to all the phone answerers over the last 7 or 8 years. Thank you very much. And most important, here is to you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Keep listening to Radio Kent. Thank you and good night.